Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today in the group, the private group, we're going to talk about what I would call the creepy side of crypto. It's very creepy. I've always said this thing could be used for good or for evil, just like any technology. Let's hope that we land on the good side, but I'm going to show you the creepy side. You can go to daixrp.com to go through the Patreon, or if you'd rather join through YouTube, you can click join below any of my YouTube videos, or you can hit subscribe on X. I do the full video plus the extended video with no commercials. We've got a $3.03 XRP. I'm hoping for blast off soon, but if it pulls back, I'm ready for that too. As we know on this channel, both Russia and China, and I believe India, maybe Pakistan, have issued at least 5 to 10 Bitcoin bans over the course of the last 10 years, pure market manipulation. Well, Russia, their largest stock exchange, calls on regulators to lift the retail Bitcoin trading ban. So you know where this is going, folks. Look at this from the CFTC Commissioner Caroline Pham. Collateral management is the killer app for stablecoins, enabling real-time programmable settlement across asset classes. By unlocking capital efficiencies and freezing up balance sheet, it can drive a powerful ripple effect. Imagine that. Words are everything, right? Words mean things. I don't think that's by accident. More credit to businesses, greater liquidity in markets, and a more resilient financial system. Here's more from Charles Hoskinson about the importance of crypto.
What I find interesting is that Cardano has often been seen or has been said to be a threat to Bitcoin's dominance. I mean, don't they have different value propositions?
Yeah, and I don't view anybody as a threat to each other anymore. I mean, the big challenge for us is we kind of won. We're like the dog as an industry that kept chasing the car and finally catches it, and it doesn't know what to do with the car. So the regulators have finally embraced us. We're talking to the Federal Reserve. We're talking to the SEC on favorable terms as an industry, and now we need to reconcile the legacy world and the DeFi world and bring them together and just have FI, next generation finance. So everybody has a role to play in that, whether you're Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano. It's going to take a little bit of time to figure out how to do compliance and what privacy looks like and how global settlement's going to work. Like every securities law has to be rewritten.
So you're talking about a coexistence between traditional finance and what we have right now, what you represent. I just had a conversation with Vlad Tenev of Robinhood. He talks about how cryptocurrencies will be the backbone of the financial system.
Yeah.
Will it be?
I think so. I mean, tokens are like financial stem cells. They could be heart cells and brain cells, and so they could be securities or commodities or currencies or intellectual property. And having T0 24/7 global settlement with full programmability is a really powerful thing. The only thing we're missing is selective disclosure and rational privacy. You need to have the ability to do private smart contracts to sort out the private side from the public side, and that's where the industry's at right now, solving that last mile problem. Once you have it, you can pull everything together, and then you can be a superset to broker dealers and superset to custodians and all this other stuff that runs the legacy world. And at that point, there's no reason to run on the legacy systems. You want to run the crypto systems because there's far more liquidity.
And when will that happen?
Within the next 3 to 5 years. And the big challenge was regulation, but the regulation's getting done. You know, Clarity Act will probably be passed in October.
We saw that part the other day. Look at this. Samsung Wallet was integrated with Coinbase in the US and Canada, allowing millions of Galaxy users to purchase crypto directly through Samsung Pay. It's happening, folks. Uh-oh, for Gary. Looks like some of these congressmen have sent a letter to the SEC and Paul Atkins to raise concerns about the SEC's mishandling of former Chair Gensler's text messages and calls for stronger oversight to ensure compliance. None of this means anything if they don't, if people like Gary Gensler do not pay the consequences for their actions. If there's no repercussions, this is all typical politician BS. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath. Listen to this. This is Stellar President and Chief Growth Officer. Listen to this.
A chain that has been around for a long time, that is purpose-built for everyday financial services, and that has that respectability and that ability to engage with the enterprise side of it. So one of the places where I will spend most of my time is making sure that there is more enterprise adoption. Stellar has been super successful in the past in bringing names like MoneyGram and Franklin Templeton and Wisdom Tree. PayPal announced that they were deploying their stablecoin on Stellar. And the measure of success for me is going to be if a year from now we have 10, 20, 30 other names that are choosing to deploy Stellar on the institutional side. I think that's where we get extreme distribution. You'll hear me talk a lot about building for extreme distribution, building for scale.
Yeah.
How do we get products that can be taken to the masses?
So let me follow up on this infrastructure idea that I know that you have mentioned that quite a few times. How does that fit with the enterprise ambitions in regards to blockchains and so on? So there's a lot of conversation about infrastructure everywhere, like digital public infrastructure, like the Brazilian PIX. How does that fit with the enterprise world?
So I've been in fintech for a long time. And if you look at the evolution of fintech, for the last 20, maybe for the last 30 years, most of the innovation that has happened on fintech has been either on the UX side, on better interfaces for consumers to interact with, or on fraud prevention, how to detect bad actors in card-not-present environments. But the pipes to move value have stayed the same for the last more than 30 years, even 50. It's funny, the expression for a bank-to-bank transfer in English is a wire transfer. And it's called a wire transfer because initially they were set on telegram wires. So that was technology was 100 years old. When you think of what does it take for infrastructure to be bank grade and enterprise grade, as an industry, traditionally blockchain talks a lot about some of the shiny objects. And we talk a lot about speed and we talk a lot about cost. And Stellar has incredible strengths in speed and cost.
I know who else does. Look at this from Ron Paul. I really do wonder if they're going to, some of these digital assets that are going to be used for transactions, I believe they may do it at the institutional level where they provide tax benefits and don't tax transactions. I don't know that they're going to do it at the retail level.
When you say, Dr. Paul, legalize the competition, what does that mean with regards to Bitcoin, and what role do you see Bitcoin potentially playing in that kind of monetary system?
Well, it would mean that if right now if you buy and sell gold, you get it taxed. They can do that. If you make a profit in Bitcoin, you read stories about people being taxed on it. You can't tax money. You don't tax it if you bought $1 a year ago and it went down 10%, you can't take a loss because your dollar lost value. So it's the currency that if you compete with it, in some ways there's a little bit of that internationally, but nobody's allowed to compete at a national level. We're not allowed to compete with the currency. I know during the presidential campaign, a few of my enthusiastic supporters actually designed a coin, and they had my image on there, which was pretty silly. And they called it a Ron Paul dollar. They got into big trouble. They got in trouble because they could not use the word dollar. That was encroaching on the monopoly control of money.
But what is the main theme that you plan on conveying about Bitcoin when you address the conference on Friday? What is your overall perspective on Bitcoin?
Well, I won't try to explain exactly technically where it's good, bad, or indifferent. I will argue more the case for the legalization of freedom of choice. And the people should...
I agree with that. Look at this from the CME group. Options on XRP and Solana futures launching on October 13th. And these guys are going to 24/7 trading. This is cool. If you've watched the Squid Game, this is the guy who plays the main actor in the Squid Game. I won't tell you what happens to him. But Phil Kwok apparently got to meet him. I'm not sure where that is. Pretty cool. And then we've got this. This is the Coinbase CLO talking about how things are different now.
A new era in the cooperation between the SEC and the CFTC. You know, the turf battle that Nicola referenced earlier wasn't just between the agencies themselves. Unfortunately, over the years, Congress, which has oversight authority with respect to each of these agencies, has also, I think, fought over who has the primary role in regulating crypto. Is it, for example, the Financial Services Committee? Is it the Ag Committee? Banking in the Senate and its Ag Committee? So these turf battles, I think, have unfortunately dominated, but we're now seeing real cooperation at the agency level. And I think a lot of the credit for that goes to SEC Chair Paul Atkins and Acting Chair Pham.
Is there a country that we can look to or that you look to right now that does this the right way, that does this really well, that the U.S. can model itself on?
Well, I think the U.S. has actually now become the model. For many years, under the previous administration, the SEC in particular was behind. You saw Europe and Asia race ahead in adopting sensible crypto rules and sensible crypto standards. But under the new administration, I think we're seeing real leadership from the SEC, not only from Chairman Adkins, but also from Commissioner Hester Peirce. And I think the U.S. is now once again serving as a model for the rest of the world that we can all be proud of.
So as the two agencies start to coordinate more and more and start to, work from the same rule book here, how does this fit in with the crypto market structure bill that's still working its way through Congress? There's still a lot of questions tied to that.
Well, the market structure bill is critical. The Congress made excellent progress early this year when it passed a stablecoin bill, but it's critical that Congress finish the job, and that's what the market structure bill will do. The House has already passed the Clarity Act, its version of this legislation, and now it's time for the Senate to do the same. In the meantime, the SEC is not wasting time and is racing ahead to implement standards and erect a framework for crypto regulation so that it's ready on day one once this legislation passes. And we think, again, that's a real credit to SEC Chairman Paul Atkins and his leadership and the attitude of the SEC that this is a market, this is an industry that has been long overlooked and needs to be.
That's right. Well, let's go into the creepy side of crypto, and I do mean creepy. Something to think about. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. Here we go.